Officials say 130 suspected victims of possible energy weapon. This is a article from Fox News on May 19th, 2021. So I'm calling in a divine court hearing and a transfer for in this clip, in this news storyline, they're blaming Russia. All right. Now, I highly doubt it was Russia that was playing Hunger Games with iVessel with these directed energy microwave weapons. I'm talking about, U.S. Corps, I know you remember the time that when y'all were shooting me with these invisible weapons when I just fell in the street with oncoming traffic when I was with my child vessel. I highly doubt that was Russia. I highly doubt that was Russia that was playing Hunger Games with invisible weapons with iVessel and brain. The great God said, I have been liquidated. My cells from all of the negative radiation, a shot, or I don't know how it works, or shot or injected or directed in me by the United States Corporation. That's what the great God, Universal Allah, told me, that I have been liquidated. We're not even going to go into the cancers and all of that stuff that these microwave weapons cause. Me being a HSP, a highly sensitive person, an empath, I absorb. Earth Angel, empath is synonymous, but absorbing the universal cosmic energies from the negative and positive polarity. Being a sponge, absorbing all that negative radiation, the great God said, this is what's being used to literally liquidate people and attack them and kill their healthy cells, so that you basically just die and you don't have it. There's no accounting. If someone shoots you with a physical weapon, you know that you've been harmed. Your physical body has been harmed, but no one can make these. No one can make any reports, or no one will even believe you if you say that Hunger Games are being played with you, on you, with directed energy microwave weapons. No, I've never told anyone, because I wouldn't think that anyone would believe me. I've only told, those closest, because they, that's how I ended up being kidnapped. That's how I ended up being kidnapped. Because they immobilized me with the directed energy microweapons. I couldn't get off the ground. I couldn't get up. And the police officers asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. I just said I wanted to recoup and recover, and that I would get up on my own. And their gang, their criminal organization gang, 3 of them picked me up, put handcuffs on me, and threw me into a police vehicle. By the way, universal disclosure, anyone referring to themselves as a police, according to the great God Universal Allah, you are committing crimes against humanity. You are not sworn in as a police. You did not take an oath as a police. You're under a law. You're under the record of humanity as a peace, P-E-A-C-E officer, a servant of humanity, a public servant. So if you are policing humanity, you are a criminal according to the great God, universal Allah. You shall be prosecuted to the maximum extent of universal law. These you shall be transferred. These. It will look like transfers where you guys can come and pick people up, kidnap us in the physical. We'll be arresting. These are the angels of the great God, universal Allah. We shall be arresting you, your soul essence, and transporting you to Gehenna, and we will send a walk-in. We will send an ethical walk-in to dismantle this criminal organization. That's how it works according to the great God, universal Allah. So, and they pick me up and throw me in this police vehicle. They said they were taking me to a hospital. They take me to a mental institution. And I wake up after being sprayed with some mystery substance. When I finally wake up, I'm handcuffed to a bed. That was my account. And then I was routinely injected with chemicals and poisons that I still don't know what was injected in me to this day. Now, the great God allowed me to see it because when I physically died, when I was flatlined and physically died, the great God allowed me to leave my body and still view my body. So I was hovering. I wasn't on earth, but I was hovering over my unresponsive, unconscious body with a bunch of people. I don't know who they were around me, doing things to my body and asking me if I wanted these injections. And when the great God had moved my head, I was just watching it happen, but the great God moved my head. When she asked me that I want this injection, I saw the great God move my head from left to right, like no. And they still injected me. So this has been my account and my experience that I've been attacked with directed energy weapons, microwave weapons. I mean, on some Hunger Game shit, like them actually chasing me and hunting me down and me trying to escape these things, and even them connecting military technology to my human vessel to cause rain. I still don't know what these technologies are. Because this is classified. These are black operations. This doesn't have to be disclosed to the public what they're really doing. It's going to be more and more truth coming out about it because more and more people are understanding that something weird is going on when you just collapse for no reason and you do not have prior history of these things. I've never had seizures before. I can't account for having one seizure in my life. I've never been a person to fall out. I've always had very strong genes and everything. So when you just start, your whole body starts shaking and trembling and you fall out because a officer that's distributing these directed energy weapons is in your vicinity. You start to realize that these are not isolated incidents and you really are being attacked by something that you can't see. I've been shocked. It's like the great God told me it's invisible fence technology for human vessels that are and they're basically for extraterrestrials. If I'm going to break it down into layman's terms, whom the world governments determine are extraterrestrials. Because again, these end time war, the great God, universal Allah told us that this war is not physical. Till this day, I have speech impediments because being attacked so much. Divine release. I have speech impediments and difficulties with a lot of things because of being. These are weapons that could have killed me, but the great God. That's why the great God lets us go through the most extreme circumstances. If we make it out alive, how How could you not have faith in the great God, universal Allah? Because they wanted you to die. The great God, universal Allah, wouldn't let them kill you. So how could you not have like absolute faith in the great God, universal Allah, when if you've been killed by these people? And the great God keeps putting me back in my body. The real me, my soul self. Every time they tried to kill me, the great God kept putting me back in my body. I would leave, go back to the energy world. I just wanted to go home. I really don't like this place anyway. But I wanted to go home. I was fine. But the great God said I couldn't come back home permanently. The great God kept putting me back in my body. They inject me with all these poisons and chemicals to open up portals with the pharmaceuticals they injected with me, because pharmaceuticals, they open up portals to lower dimensions. That's why they list in a physical all those side effects, even death, because they open up portals to lower dimensions. I'm native indigenous. My body rejects that. If I ever get sick, I fast, or I would use like essential oils. I use pure essential oils like every few minutes, because it's like the molecules are so small in those essential oils, they penetrate the blood-brain barrier, the blood barrier in like 60 seconds, but they dissipate way quicker. So I would use it like every few minutes if I got like some type of real bad cold or something like that. I just keep using that all throughout the day. Liquids, fasting. My first resort would never be to go to a hospital or a doctor to get any type of pharmaceutical. I know if you take antibiotics, then you're going to mess up your positive, healthy, what are they called? Your gut bacteria is going to leave you susceptible to negative attack from negative gram organisms. I do know that. So that's why I was never like, all right, if I get sick or something like that, something happened, I'm going to some doctor, because I know they're going to give me something that my body's going to reject. Again, only if it was like an extreme situation would I resort to going to a doctor or a hospital. But that was against my will. That was a kidnapping, the great God, universal Allah. So again, it's coming up. It's coming up. The memory, it comes up in shifts and spans. And every time it comes up, I call in a divine court hearing and a transfer. But when I was kidnapped and injected with poisons against my will and handcuffed and transported in the back of a police vehicle 5 hours away to a second mental institution, which they called a hospital, and they tortured me there. And the great God showed me how the hospital harvests off of souls. They hire executioner spirits to kill people with I guess they call them undesirables, like if they're elderly or they have weak immune systems. So the executioner spirit, they had some weird ass like jack-in-the-box noise that would come around in the hallway, and when it would stop, the great God showed me that the executioner spirit would leave it and go into the person's room, and it would basically strangle, a strangulation. The person that's kind of incapacitated, whether it be from whether they're on like morphine or during some type of heavy drug where their immune system, they do not have a will to fight anymore. So the executioner spirit would just take their life. The great God describes to me like these executioner spirits, they have such a strong electromagnetic field of like, it could be rage or hate. So it's like they can touch you. Pretty much their energy is so strong with demonic force that they can kill a human vessel. Cause they'll basically, it'll be like a grim reaper, like an executioner. They'll just take that person's soul, and then that person just lifeless. And they say, they'll say some shit like cause of death unknown, or some shit like that. Oh, take them to the morgue, cause that's what I heard them say that about me when I was in there. She said, take her to the morgue. They said that about me. I don't know if I was in the morgue or not, because I was heavily. The time that I was awake, I was, I had my eyes closed the whole time. That's how terrified I was. I thought I was in a morgue. I don't know where they took me. And at other times, I was in and out of unconsciousness and sedation from them shooting me with pharmaceuticals. So this divine court hearing lawsuit does include every pharmaceutical company on this indigenous ancestors land, because we were informed by the great God Universal Allah to get our healing from the bitter herbs and from the earth. That's where we're supposed to get our healing from. So they violated a vessel of the great God Universal Allah when they did that. And so we call on a divine court hearing and a transfer. And I'm just putting this on the record because, while I was locked up, I had huge, they looked like they were from the military officers. They were guarding the room that they locked me in. And they had big ass guns. And I was hiding behind a bed because I was so terrified. I thought I was going to leave permanently. I didn't think that the great God was going to bring me back. So I was terrified at seeing these huge armed guards standing by this hospital door, this mental institution door. I was terrified. And while I was there, I talked to, because they had me they teleported me to alternate realities through the pharmaceuticals. So I was able to communicate with the executioner spirits, and the executioner spirits said they got paid to do it. They get paid in blood, though. These executioner spirits, they get paid in blood. They can't pay them like fiat money. It doesn't have any electrical charge. Blood does. And this executioner spirit was remorseful, and it was sorrowful because he said he didn't want to kill me, but he was hired to kill me in that simulation. Real time, I'm really in this hospital. This is not no dream. I ain't sleep. I'm not asleep and having a dream. This really, really, really happened. It's on the record. Till this day, I still have these papers of where they locked me up at. So, it was in Virginia. This place was in Virginia. Because I was driving around in my mobile vessel, my religious vessel, dedicated to Moorish Science Temple of America. And I was just doing some ancestral work. And they didn't like that I was in Virginia driving with my Moorish plates on. I didn't have tags on. Because I'm traveling my property. I didn't have my tags on. So I was getting followed around in Virginia. I was in a 29-foot, I call it mobile temple, 29-foot mobile temple. And I'm just driving around and doing what I do. And they're following me around there. And the sheriff out there told me to leave and not come back. They didn't want to see me around there anymore. I didn't leave. And that's when I got attacked by the directed energy microwave weapon. The great God called it like a scalar beast, because from the other dimensions, it looked like a transformer, like that. I think it's the cartoons. I think they made movies about it. I haven't seen none of the Transformers, but that's what it looked like from another dimension. That's how, like, the force field and how big this thing was. So this thing, it came through. This shit sound, I know this shit I don't never tell nobody, because people will not be able to believe this shit, because they put so much of this in the movies that I know people can't believe it. But when I was in the mobile temple, it looked like when you're in a desert and you could see those ripples, when you're like staring into the air and you can see those ripples. That's how it looked it, and something crashed through. This thing was a fucking monster. It was huge, and but you could feel it physically. You just couldn't see it. So, I try to tell my child vessels, just throw this, put this, because I had bleach in a thing. I said, put this bleach all over me. Put this bleach all over me. It left. This thing crashed back through a portal. That's when I ran up out of that bitch, and I took my, I had a power wand. It contained a huge Lemurian quartz inside of a copper tube with the plastic resins and all of the metals. It had a 12-volt battery. So when you turn it on, it will generate all this energy or whatever. Because me and the corpse, they been targeting me because I be protecting myself with organite and things like that. And they knew that I was investing in organite. That power wand, I paid $500 just for that piece. For that wand, I paid $500 for that one alone. And I had a lot of other pieces that I was invested in and buying in. Basically like 5G protectors. They're 5G organite. And they had been surveying me because I was buying these things and into these things. And so I would gift them to people and tell people about them and things like that. So I'm sure, that's how I became a target. But when this thing crashed, this scalar beast crashed through this portal, literally, I picked up the wand immediately, and it kept knocking the power out of the wand. And I knew something was going on. I knew something bad was going on because my power wand, it never lost power. And I had the recharge batteries in there and everything. I would charge up the batteries. I had a whole setup. All that stuff was stolen by the corpse, by the U.S. corpse. But I knew that this was like on some supernatural shit. I knew it. Because this thing, when it crashed through, anytime it would get in my field, the power would just go out from my power wand. So I ran out of the mobile temple. I said, come on, y'all, we have to go. And I ran out. I started running. This thing was following me everywhere as if they attached it to me. I don't know how they do it, but the great guy's basically saying like, all right, this is how they do it. They open up a portal. All right, so entity from the lower dimensions, right? It could be any type of entity, evil spirit, right, that they summon, right? They'll allow it through the portal. Now, it will be connected to these nanobots, this nanotechnology, and I just think it's the heavy metals involved, which are the conductors of electricity. I think it's the negative microorganisms, and these entities that they let through the portal, so they become like machines. That's my take on it. I hope to have a scientific explanation on exactly how they can direct these scalar beasts to people. Again, I saw videos of people online fighting imaginary creatures. They're having a fight. That's it. Literally the fight that I had with this thing. I mean, this thing had me pinned on the ground. I had a 12-pound block of Utah ice. That's selenite. A selenite is a crystal that never needs to be cleansed or charged. That was what really allowed me to get this thing up off of me. Because when I ran out of the mobile temple, I took the power wand and I took my selenite log. I got it directly from Utah. She was about 12 to 13 pounds. So while this thing has me pinned to the ground, and I'm just like I could feel it was literally squeezing, like if there was a rag and you're squeezing the water out of it. That's what this thing was doing to my solar plexus. So I could literally feel all of the life force just leaving me. Now I couldn't see, but my teams, my spiritual assistants on the other side, they were telling me, just wait, they're fighting this war and they were going to get this thing detached from me. So I'm just laying there with the selenite on, right seated on the top of, like right seated on my navel, my solar plexus. And once they got it detached from me, all right, they said, get up. I got it real quick and I started running, but this thing it was following me everywhere. And from the weight, from me being pinned on the ground, the weight paralyzed my right arm. So whenever I would put my right arm up, it would fall down like a limp noodle. So it was just like those videos I saw, those people, like they were, something was attacking them, but you couldn't see it. And they were fighting something, but you couldn't see it. I was not on no drugs. I don't do pharmaceutical drugs. And at that time, I wasn't using any type of marijuana. Nothing. No alcohol. None of that shit. This shit was purely spiritual. It was purely a spiritual attack. So I didn't know at the time that it was the directed energy weapons. I didn't know that at the time, but listen, the only way I made it out of that, because I ended up running. It was like if a rabid dog was like after somebody and they were just like relentless attacking. That's what this thing was doing. I was going from store to store trying to get this thing off me. And the great God said, you have to like lock in place. You have to get in a position where you're constantly releasing, because this thing is going to consume your energy field if you are absorbing this negative energy from this thing. So the great God would have me go in positions where I can lock my body. Like if you were to put your arm behind your back and then bend. All right, say, I'll give you an example of when I say lock in. All right, my left arm, I'm going to put my left arm behind my back, right? You know, like that yoga pose where they put their prayer hand, but they put it, I don't know what it's called, but they make a prayer hand on their back. That's like locking in. Or if I would put my left hand like in that position and I would tilt my head to the right. If you see how that feels, like the release of tension and the release of negative energy, the great God would have me get in positions like that. That's why the great God is saying, like, you have to learn, if you're going to be in this spiritual war, this end time war, you have to learn these release positions, because these beasts that are being deployed out here for the end times, their electromagnetic field is so intense with negative energy. It can kill a person. So you have to be in that release to whatever that force is directing to you. Like you're in a constant position of release. That's another way that I was saved through that, because I kept getting in release positions. Even in the hospital, I was staying in release positions. I would not lay on the bed because they attach the executioner spirits. They attach it to the hospital clothes in the bed. So if I were to lay on the bed, the great God told me don't get on the bed, because if I was to lay on the bed, this thing would get on. I know everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have experienced sleep paralysis where it's something on you and it won't let you get out. Well, this executioner spirit would do that. If you sat in the chair or the bed, it would be attached. I don't know. It's crazy how they do this shit. But it makes sense, because these are just evil consciousness combined with AI. So they would be I assumed that it would just be waiting there on the bed for you. And if you lay on there and if they lay on you, they can smother the life out of you and then just go down to your body. Boom, they got a body or whatever. Or you lose your soul and they transport your soul to Gehenna. Because that's a traumatic way to leave, being strangulated by an invisible force, right? So that was my account. So it's coming back up now because more trauma wants to leave so I can allow more abundance in. So it's coming up more. So I just called divine court hearing and the transfer. All involved multidimensionally. This also includes any spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions, any spiritual wickedness in other dimensions that were involved in the attack. And, obviously Satan is the orchestrator of the evil. But what else? I just do that anytime a memory comes back up. Because if a memory comes back up, it wants to leave so that it's not staying contained within you, right? That's all I do. So I'm not calling this divine court hearing and transfer against Russia using directed energy microwave weapons, because I doubt that was Russia doing that over here to me, to my vessel. I've experienced it personally. I doubt that was Russia. So I do believe that all of the world governments do have this technology, because this is an extraterrestrial technology that's being given to the world governments to control and subdue humanity. And also because they had a episode on The Simpsons. I remember divine court hearing and transfer. Every Simpsons, first of all involved with The Simpsons. Let's just put it there. Because, listen, I just generalize it. It's like if you were to go and file a shadow lawsuit, right? If you were going to a courthouse, right? You're not going to handle all the specifics. You're going to probably have a lawyer and things like that, and you're going to tell your lawyer the facts of the case and stuff like that. The lawyer puts the proper legal terminology and everything, puts all that together for you. So I just express what I can to I higher self, and higher self is the lawyer, is the divine prosecutor, is the divine lawyer that goes back and forth between the great God, universal Allah, and Satan for, Satan, this is the ruling. You are to arrest, send the Grim Reaper, arrest such and such to all of these individuals that was involved. And now, all right, we're getting our positive energy back from the crime and all this stuff. Like, higher self is back and forth, multidimensionally handling this case for I vessel, I human vessel. This is home. This is my home. My body is my home. This is where my soul lives with my body. It's my home. It's how my soul is able to live on the home earth. We live in the earth. We live on the earth. The earth is our home. But also, even truer, we also live in the body. Our soul also lives in or on the body, however you want to say it, however the great God says it. So, all I need is the memory. That's all I'm trying to express, is that's all I need is the memory to come up for for justice to be activated in this case. And I will receive not just my pure positive life force energy that was stolen from the event. I also receive more divine. I receive it divine times fold, because everyone involved, they lose their soul. They lose their soul for that, and they get transported to Canaan, where they shall weep and gnashing of the teeth for the divine amount of time. Now all men shall be redeemed, reconciled, and redeemed back to the great God, universal Allah, at some time and space in infinity. But they will have to be in Gehenna for man. If what's Rick Ross said in Hustling, he got 100 life sentences. I assume that's disclosure, a confession, from the walk-in that walked into Rick Ross's vessel when he ain't even a real Rick Ross. What was his name? Well, whatever his real name was, whatever he was named at birth, right? His real soul essence was arrested and transported to Gehenna. So the walk-in had to confess of what happened to the real, whatever Rick Ross's real birth name is. It had to confess what happened. Oh, this is not even Rick Ross anymore, or whatever his name is. It's not even him anymore. He was already arrested. He was just transported to another dimension. So that's all that's going to happen to everyone involved in, kidnapping me and continually playing Hunger Games with my vessel, with military technology, with extraterrestrial technology. That's all. And I don't know why I keep hearing Lowe's Plantation. Is Lowe's Plantation using military technology to identify extraterrestrials? Because, yeah, that's what I was saying, like that Simpson episode. They hunting, they trying to get the neighborhood to find the extraterrestrials, because they can't tell who's the extraterrestrial. So in the Simpsons, they trying to kill the extraterrestrials, basically. Let me see if I can find the episode. Oh no, I still can't find it.
Got a man! Sure thing, Dad! It's Mark versus the Space Mutants for your NES. Only Mark Simpson can save the Earth. Okay,
So, in that, I knew it was either a game or a Simpsons game or a episode. Basically, they gotta find the space mutants or aliens, whatever, in the neighborhood, and to now. I do believe that that is with that they're showing how what's going on right now. Anyone deemed to be a space mutant, my vessel being labeled as Mutant X, but anyone being classified as extraterrestrial, that just the great God basically just described it to me. Like, first of all, ain't nothing to me. It's nothing spooky or scary about how, just being extraterrestrial or alien. Alien can have many terms. Aliens are people that come from other countries. They call them aliens. Well, what about beings that come from other planets, right? Or other worlds? They would also be considered aliens, but it's not spooky or, it's a fear-based programming going on behind this to scare humanity into connecting with their galactic ancestors, because our galactic ancestors are going to be able to assist us and help us here on Earth. And this is according to even the last prophet of the great God universe, Allah, Prophet Noble Dra Ali, and the prophecies. I don't know if it's in the prophecies and the hadiths. It's in one of the writings. Basically, when the world is going through the Great Tribulation, like, it's going to be on like some purge type shit going on. Like, because we going to be, by that time, we going to really, really be synced. We're going to be merged with the frequency of the galactic ancestors by this time. And we're going to have more of our superhuman abilities, right? From the gamma radiation. For vessels on my side, on the positive polarity, we'll have the positive gamma radiation that will allow us to do supernatural feats, right? So, but on their side, see, they gonna have that super influx of negative radiation, which that's gonna kill all of their cells, right? We already know what chemo does. We know chemo does not just kill the positive cells, right? We know that chemo is going to kill us, your positive cells as well as your negative cells. So you ain't gonna have no cells, right? So they just gonna have these supernatural entities in those vessels. Gonna see stuff like, this motherfucker's gonna be like Spider-Man climbing up walls and stuff, but they're gonna be like mutants, right? But on our side, we're gonna be able to combat them because we're gonna have our own superhuman powers, because we'll have the influx. That's what they can't receive. The vessels from the negative, that's staying in a negative polarity, will have the influx of that positive gamma radiation. So we'll also have our superhuman powers, abilities activated. Like, we'll be able to control matter with our minds. Some of us are experiencing that right now. Like, a lot of times I don't touch my phone and something will just shut, like my phone will just change for me or some shit like that. That's that shit that Elon was talking about they're gonna be able to do when they get that Neuralink. Like, it's just supernatural things happening through the mind. That's how we gonna be once we fully sync with the galactic ancestors. So the galactic ancestors will be able to pull us transport us to the apparatuses. That's according to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, More Science Temple of America. I don't know if it's in the prophecies or hadiths, but these apparatuses, they talking about the galactic ancestors' vehicles, ships, apparatus. So we're going to be looking down at the Great Tribulation going on. We're going to be looking down at the chaos. Like, watching y'all running around getting hunted by these demonic entities, which really all the Great Tribulation is for, is so that all of your demons that you have been suppressing, they can come up at one time as a collective. The 99% is going through it, and it's going to bring all of your demons up together. The records, the memories, these frequencies, these extremely low frequencies that's been within you guys, because, well, the same way they showed on the purge, like they show on the purge, all right, we need to cleanse our souls, so we got to murder these people. That's what they're showing on the purge, because that all these years, the age of Pisces, the suppression and repression that has been programmed into us by the age of Pisces, like, just listen to Massa, do what Massa say, and shut up. Oh, get married. Oh, have this job. Oh, go to school for this. Oh, do this. Repeat this. Take this oath. Pledge your allegiance to Satan and the American flag. Like, all this stuff has been programmed in us and told us, and we knew that this shit wasn't right. Oh, go to school for all of these years, for half of your life. Oh, now you're not going to have jobs. AI is replacing you. Like, MF is going to be losing it, man. They're going to be losing it. That's what the purge is about. So they're saying on the satanic side, the way that they cleanse their soul, they have to let that, they have to let those extremely low frequencies out. They know the science behind containing an extremely low frequency in a vessel, in a container, in a human body, in a human home. Like, they know the science behind how it is like a volcano. It lies dormant, and when that motherfucker explode, guess what's gonna happen? Chaos and destruction. That's what the purge is about. That's going to be going on during the Great Tribulation, where everybody's extremely low frequencies has to come up, because all fear has to be collapsed. All timelines created in fear has to be collapsed for us to get to a new world, operating out of divine order. That's where, you could feed your whole family with one fruit or veggie. You're not going to have to make something else suffer for you to live, survive, or thrive. You won't have to cause harm to anything else. You won't have to cause pain and suffering to anything else, because we know according to universal law of one, that if we cause suffering to anything else, right, that we actually cause it to ourselves. That's just universal law. So we all guilty of that. We're all guilty of that in this go around, right? So they say you cleanse your soul, right? That's how they cleanse their soul in a satanic polarity, through releasing the suffering that they harbor within, the extremely low frequencies they're harboring in, and they have to transfer it to another for them to feel positive, the satanic polarity. But the great God saying that's a lie. That movie, that Purge movie, that's a lie, because the great God said through Yahushai, only some extremely low frequencies, which are demons or devils, They can only be cast out through fasting and see, that's the thing with prayer. Like, you got to be able to even communicate with the great God, universal Allah. Great God, universal Allah, I'm fasting to remove this sin against you, or these extremely low frequencies, to cast these devils out. I'm fasting. This is what I'm fasting for. You have to state, either through the thought or a declaration, that this is where I want the energy to flow. All right, I'm fasting for healing and removing this extremely low frequency. It could be rage, which most of 99% is going to be dealing with rage when, they find out their whole life existence was the lie that Satan told them. They're going to finally lose it. And that's going to be a part of a real purge is coming to the earth. But see, it's happening in shifts. But no, the Great Tribulation is a purge. That's when all the sins of the 99% got to come up at one time. The great God, universal Allah, allowed me to go through my individual purge for just 20 years span. Right. So every simulation, it would bring up more trauma for me to transmute it. I've had simulations of, you know, labor pains through childbirth and rearing, because that's what the great God said. That's the only way that a female vessel could be saved, because that was your duty and function. That was your main duty and function, being able to create life through the womb. And you would be able to experience what Mother Earth is experiencing through birthing a new Earth. You would be able to be a partaker in her suffering, right? If you did it righteously. Some people, I'm not gonna get into that, but if you did it in right standing with the great God, universal Allah, right? Child rearing, child rearing, which includes breastfeeding. That's in right standing with the great God, universal Allah. You have offspring. You you have a righteous intent for them. All right, I'm going to give them the nutrition from the great God instead of the lack of nutrition from Satan through formula. There's studies out there. It's arsenic, like jet fuel and stuff. I read that in a journal a long time ago. It's like jet fuel and baby formula and stuff like that. So just righteously experiencing childbirth is how a female vessel is saved. Because those labor pains produce patience, right? That's the fruit of the Holy Spirit. So you're aligning more with the great God, universal Allah, doing things like that. You can shift your consciousness to the higher planes of life by being in right standing with universal law, with the great God Allah. But yeah, that's crazy, man. And again, like during we'll call it the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions, that they take bodies, they take seats. It's a cabinet, members of a cabinet, or I don't know how you say that, but they're all the spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions, in bodies. And they understand the divine doors close on every enemy that I choose multidimensionally, close on every area of their valuable life, and let the doors to their evil open, and let the evil end transfer from divine, indigenous, native ancestors multidimensionally through their door, whomever enemies I choose multidimensionally. The great God wants us to never take anything physical as a coincidence the great God wants. Because look, I can't help who closes a door, but I don't know what entity is working through that vessel and making that spiritual wickedness in a higher dimension would use that vessel to do a physical action, and their thought form would sync with the vessel, as above so below, to make a decree, a declaration, or a curse. And that just enter my ear gate, that could enter my consciousness and take seat and manifest. So I stay on top of those things when, listen, we all know about close when the door gets closed for you. We know when the door gets open for you. It can be life changing. So I'm always vigilant about how entities are using the vessels around me. Seemingly innocent actions can and are used against our consciousness. So now, if I don't make my declaration or my intent, then I can be subject to another entity's intent. So I set my declaration intent. Divine doors are now closed on any enemy that I choose multidimensionally. Da 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 da. Now, if this entity that's trying to be a smart ass, right? If this entity wants to take a contract against me, the great guy's like, oh, well, no. She said her intent. Well, what you did, she said her intent. That's her reality. Her intent trumps yours. You're evil against her. And now I just saved a door. Whatever that intent was. Now I just saved myself from that evil intent. This entity is running around here just using vessels to do evil things and to cast evil things to you through physical actions paired with the spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions intent. Because if any person around you if they're operating in any extremely low frequencies, most of my nation deals with jealousy, because we haven't had jealousy and envy, because we've only seen 1% of us make it to perceive success. So most of these vessels deal with jealousy and envy. So any of our nation is subject to being used by a spiritual wickedness in higher dimension. It doesn't mean that they're inherently evil, or no, we're good natured. We just have extremely low frequencies programmed into us that are used by the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions. They just attach their thought forms onto whatever is causing, is allowing them to be used. So this is why the government, for example, they know. That's why they put the purge out. They put the purge out as universal disclosure. So, because your conscious mind is not real. Your conscious mind is just perceiving a finite reality in the moment. It's the subconscious mind they're trying to reach, because that's the part of you that literally connects you to your higher self. It's your soul evolution. How all your memories for your existence in time and space, your consciousness's existence in time and space is your subconscious mind. That's the part of you that they're required by universal law to reach. Because your conscious mind is temporarily. It's connected to whatever lobe, frontal lobe, whatever, is temporary. The subconscious mind, that is your soul memory. That's the part that they have to, by universal law, by the great God, that they have to disclose these things to you. So they're disclosing like the purge to you through your subconscious mind by putting it out there. Like everyone says, truth hidden in plain sight. That's how you connect with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind sees in the background. So they just disclosing to 99% of people that if you have not removed, if you have not transmuted your negative polarity, your extremely low frequencies that you have been programmed with via your DNA. Your DNA is programmed with ancestral slavery, poverty, murder. If you've been a victim, if your ancestors were a victim, then your DNA is programmed with victim consciousness. Being murdered. That's in the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Moorish Science Temple of America. We are, I'm just paraphrasing, we are what our forefathers and foremothers, we are them. Because we share the same DNA, we share the same records. So if you, this is what they're telling, that's what they're disclosing to you through your subconscious mind. Like if you have not removed these extremely low frequencies, you will be experiencing it in the purge. Because all fear has to collapse. All timelines created in fear have to be neutralized to 0 point. Because the great God, universal Allah, is creating a new earth. Like in the physical, it's already done. The master blueprints and all that, that's done. It's like when you see the prototype, when the architect is, when they're, before they even build the actual real structure, there's a blueprint and a prototype of it and all of that. So this is basically how we are being ushered into that. It can only be ushered into that through this process of, all right, if a vessel like myself, I've been allowed to transmute for 20 years straight. I did not, the great God cast me as Job. So I did not curse the great God, universal Allah, when Satan attacked me in every area of life, even unto death, leaving my body, like casting my soul out of my body. I still did not curse the great God. I did not turn away from the great God. It drew me closer to the great God because I knew the only way that I would be able to make it through that, make it out of that, was by great God. I need healing. I need help. I need healing. And then when I asked for that, the great God will give me a solution and how to transmute that healing crisis. Because any crisis that comes up in the physical world for a person, any physical crisis is indicating that there are extremely low frequencies that are coming up from your consciousness to be healed. Now, when this happens, some individuals will do what? Some individuals will fall by the wayside. It will actually defeat them. Or, like with the story Job, they'll curse the great God and they'll die. They'll be separated from the great God. There are the very elect to the chosen that it will draw them closer to the great God, universal Allah. Great God, universal Allah. They will think that they're being cursed by the great God, universal Allah, but the great God, universal Allah, is actually blessing them to be able to heal in a timely and dignified manner, to have the opportunity to heal before the great tribulation. Because once the great tribulation comes upon the earth, the only way to heal is going to be through the most extreme, mortifying, terrifying, heart-stopping simulations. Exactly like they were showing, disclosing to humanity for the purge, the production, the purge. So again, since I'm talking about it, I call in a divine court hearing and a transfer. I call in a divine court hearing and a transfer. All involved in the purge production. All involved. Because this is a production of the synagogue of Satan. Hollywood, Hollyweird. This is their production. Now, granted, it's universal disclosure from the spiritual wickedness from Satan, the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions. It's universal disclosure. But this is universal disclosure. But the reason why I call in a divine court hearing and a transfer is because they're creating this timeline, because they're showing humanity through their spiritual visionary centers, which is their pineal glands. That's how the soul does not see through a physical lens. The soul sees through dimensions. So the soul would experience that reality energetically, so it would feel it, right? Like that intense fear. That will, since we're talking about the purge, that intense fear that comes up during a purge, the soul would experience that through the third eye, the pineal gland. The soul would be able to be teleported into that simulation through that production being casted to the pineal gland, the third eye. So while Satan had humanity, this is why I'm calling it a divine court hearing and a transfer. Because Satan literally had humanity, was casting this manifestation, was casting this to humanity's spiritual visionary center, their third eye. And they were joined as one. Because if you have, we'll say, a movie theater, that's where it was first shown to humanity. You have all of those seats in that movie theater. They're connected together. If you notice the engineering or the dynamics of the movie theater and the seating, everyone sits as one because all of the seats are connected. This goes back to the universal law of one. We are all one, right? We are all connected, bound by one cord. That's the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Moorish Science, Temple of America. We are bound by one cord. That's the universal law of one. So when they put these seating together for everybody's, just think about the 6 feet rule. They wanted everybody's electromagnetic field separated so they could separate the world during the COVID crisis, pandemic or crisis, whatever you want to call it. This is on the record according to science. The electromagnetic field, the aura of human vessel, it's about 5 feet, right? It's about 5 feet. In 2026, I don't think that most human vessels even have that, but for your average human vessel, their electromagnetic field, their aura is 5 feet. That's why they gave the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions, gave everybody the 6 feet rule because they had to. That was the official separation of the world. That's when the world actually divided consciousness between the negative and positive polarity. That was an energetic programming. That's what the great God, Universal Allah, told me. That was humanity was being energetically programmed for separation. Because when it's all said and done, but for this, the great falling away from a negative polarity. Oh, now we're in a positive polarity. They are total polar opposite consciousness. The negative polarity consciousness and the positive polarity consciousness is opposite polarities. That's what we're falling away from, that consciousness that was created on the earth. That created the age of Pisces. So, them knowing that, the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions, they had to separate the world, because that's what the great God said. That the great God said, I'm gonna separate the wheat. What's it? The wheat from the tares. Let me see if that's it. If it's the wheat from the tares, because I don't particularly read yet, but I do remember that growing up, identifying as a Christian. I do remember that part, separating the wheat from the tare in the end times. And what exactly does that mean? Yeah, it's all right. It's the wheat and the tares. I just want to make sure it wasn't a different term that they used. The wheat and the tares. That's the great God, Universal Allah, is going to be separating the negative polarity from the positive polarity. The positive polarity, including the very elect and the chosen. Now, these are these vessels of righteousness. The vessels of the great God, Universal Allah. We are being separated from that consciousness because we were programmed with that consciousness. Satan raised me. Satan was my stepfather, and Satan raised me to be evil. Things like eating swine intestines. That's evil. That's evil and disgusting. But Satan had me doing shit like that. And all types of wild shit Satan raised me to do. That's why the great God had to at the great falling away, at the divide, the great God is having to separate the wheat from the tares. So we will not be accepted into their world, because the great God already told us, you will not even be able to buy or sell unless you take the mark of the beast. Oh, what's the mark of the beast? Well, let's look at the Holy Quran, Circle 7, More Science Temple of America, to see what the mark of the beast is. Well, let's look at what the beast is. The dragon, the serpent. So in the Quran questions for Moorish Americans, Quran questions 101, Quran questions for Moorish Americans. All right. So number 64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. 1 is Lucifer, 1 is Satan, 1 is devil, 1 is dragon and beast. So give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. Now let's go up. Hold on, let's go up. Actually, let's go here. 65. What is the devil sometimes called? The devil is sometimes called the lower self. That's number 65. What is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. That's the beast self, the carnal self. That's the lower man that has the lower desires, the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. That's the beast self. So the great God is saying, if you take this mark of the beast to be able to be in the system and buy or sell, you will be separated from everything that embodies the great God, universal Allah. You shall be separated from that for the divine amount of time that it actually takes you to get your divinity back or your soul back. So it's, again, you would have to transmute from your book of life every thought, word, and deed that was recorded by the angels of the great God, universal Allah, in your book of life. All of that would have to be transmuted back to 0 point neutrality before you could live as your soul again. So I assume it's some type of, artificial simulations you be cast into until you do that transmutation process, whether you have to, transmute all, everything you created on earth out of fear for whatever amount of time. Is it worth it to survive in a system that's going to be based off of control and tyranny anyway? Is it worth it? The great God is saying, is it worth it to even live another maybe 20 to 30 years. I think it's a lot of scientists are saying we may not even have 50 years, whatever. I mean, the great God is saying, is it worth it? Is it worth it? So you can continue to eat your GMO plastic foods and toxic products and all that. Is it worth it? The great God saying, if it is, then you shall lose your soul. Um, it's not going to be a simple process getting it back either. So I don't know, man. It's crazy, but this is basically what is going on right now through these crises that are being created. The great God is separating through this great falling away of the end times. Why is it the end times? Well, because we ended a whole age on earth. I don't know. Someone out there knows how many years is in one age. Well, we ended an age. We ended the age of Pisces. So it's like everything created out of fear. Everything created out of fear. And each individual's book of life has to be transmuted to 0 point where there is no negative charge. And that is the process of transmutation. And it could be the law of transmutation, but not sure really. But ending the age, being officially in a new age, that is the opposite polarity, the positive polarity. We are physically seeing the end times. We're in the end times right now because we already are in a new age in the energy realm. It's already been decided. So these things, these crises that are being created, like that was a crisis that was created. Now, on the flip side, it was also used for the great God to separate the wheat from the tares. If the beast tells you, the great God said, to whom much is given, much is required. The great God gave you a soul to live on earth during these magnanimous times. This is like, why do you think people watch movies? Because their soul wants to be engaged in something meaningful. So we get to just think about when a sperm is trying to fertilize an egg in that race. It's only one that's going to get the job done. And it's a big opportunity that we have, the great God is saying, to even be on earth during these times. Whether we experience it from the negative or the positive. Like, to get this experience is like a lottery when you're talking about everything in all time and space. Because there's beings that they would have did everything to be able to come here and experience this. This is like, it's like a literal movie going on throughout the cosmos, through all time and space. It's not just us watching this. It's like so many beings from different places, different planets and star systems. They're watching this like a movie. Like, yo, that's what's going on your earth. Like, just how they report on the news here. We are news reporters in other dimensions, so we get to tell. We, as Earth representatives, because we have a Earth body, we get to go to the other beings, and we get to give them updates and show them recordings and tell them what's going on Earth. And it's like if y'all was to watch a suspense movie or a thriller or a scary movie for entertainment. It's the same shit. It's like, what? So the great God is saying, like, it's a privilege to be here, even if you're experiencing a negative, is still privilege. Because think about how many people want to be cast into scary movies and stuff like that, knowing, all right, their character's going to die and shit. Like, they still want to be cast into it. This is nothing but getting cast into a script. The great God script. Satan has his own scripts too. Every satanic script, prophecy, prediction, over I vessel consciousness, I reality, or any reality that I infinity choose multidimensionally, along with anything of the all that is connected to I infinity, divine court hearing and transfer for every satanic, negative, evil script, prophecy, or prediction for I, and again, whom I is connected to multidimensionally, because I only want to take a script from the great God. The great God does give scripts, predictions through law of cause and effect. All right, if you're in vessel, if you're in right standing with me, right? Well, this is going to be the outcome. That's what the great God universal Allah can guarantee us. Like, for the very elect that have to lose their physical vessels to win the crown of life, like, they're going to have to die from persecution, because they're not going to let you buy or sell unless you give up your soul with the mark of the beast, that implant. What is allowing the satanic world to buy and sell besides cash? Because there's businesses and companies that they don't have cash no more. Everything that they give you is through a microchip. That's the satanic world. If you want to buy or sell in there, you're gonna have to take that microchip, the mark of the beast, because that microchip is gonna separate your consciousness from the great God universal Allah no more. You won't have no more free will, because they're gonna download. They will download every command, every law, every rule. All of that will be downloaded into your microchip. They don't have to what? They don't have to come and arrest you anymore. If you go against the commands, the program, your shit gonna shut down. You ain't gonna be able to do nothing. So that's why you're gonna be separated from the great God universal Allah. And then you're gonna have to be teleported into all your artificial simulations to transmute everything that was casted to your spiritual vision center, your pineal gland, your third eye, everything that was casted to that, like in your movie theaters and things like that, to your TV portals. You have to live that out. You have to, because that's the law of transmutation. You created that fear by accepting that. You have to be the one to transmute that. It's going to be done through suffering. Suffering, great God says, suffering produces patience. Patience is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. That's the great God universal Allah. So that will help you get your soul back, right? Some of us, we will not take the mark of the beast. We will refuse the mark of the beast. And the great God universal Allah said, you may have to die, like be departed from your physical body to win the crown of life. That's where you can move on to the higher planes of life, because you did not give into the lies, the tricks, the temptation, the bullying from Satan. Because just think about the COVID crisis, pandemic, whatever, pandemic, whatever they want to call it. How many people did they tell you are not going to be able to make a livelihood anymore? You ain't going to be able to go to school no more. You ain't going to be able to work no more. My own earth family, I'm saying that I grew up with, they even took the bait of Satan. They took the lies of Satan, the bullying from Satan, and they didn't consider the great God, Allah, and say, wait a minute, the great God, universal Allah, told me not to inject foreign matter in my body. I don't even know what's in this. My soul is saying that this has to be something really evil for them to coerce a 99% of people into getting this thing. Wait a minute. Man, that was the day I quit my job. You tell me I got to put something in my body. I don't care about working. I don't know if I was working back then, but I'm saying that was me. Like, or I'm like, all right, I'm Muslim. I'm getting a religious exemption. You can't make me go against my creator, my maker, and put this stuff in my body. I believe that, because what about all the Muslims? I hope that there are not Muslims that took that COVID vaccine, because you're not a Muslim. You're not a Muslim if you literally got that shit injected in you because you couldn't make a fiat money anymore. Because the great God already told us, come out of her, my people, so that you do not be a partaker in her sins. The great God also told us you won't even be able to buy or sell unless you take the mark of the beast. And the great God went into it all. Everyone, they're going to force everyone to get that shit. Like it said, small and, what's it say, small, I'm paraphrasing, rich and poor, small and great. That means even your 1% that were chosen by Satan to have dominion over the earth for the age of Pisces, they're getting it. That's why you got so-called famous rappers like Cash Doll, like Cryptocurrency Doll, that they don't need cash. They do not need banknotes. She showed the world in that video that she doesn't need to use cash anymore. Even they're being forced to get it. So if you call yourself Muslim and you went against the great God to be bullied by Satan, you're still not going to have a job unless you're going to lose your soul. That's why the great God is saying the only way at that time to win a crown of life will be to leave your body, be murdered through persecution or starved out. Because this famine's coming. There is no past. Everything is going on at the same time in all time and space. It's just levels, dimensions. Some dimensions, some simulations and dimensions, you're energetically programmed this way, or it has an energetic frequency of whatever frequency that is available. But it's still going on at the same time. Divine doors is still going on at the same time. That script that was given, all of the scripts, including the basic instructions before leaving Earth, that is for now. Now, how we interpret that through our frequency, the frequency of truth, of divine truth, the truth according to how the great God, universal Allah, scripted this. Divine doors. That is literally a script for today. There is no past. That is a script for today. You will not be able to buy or sell. We're literally seeing that go on. In certain places, if you go there, if you don't have some type of electronic form of payment, you cannot receive goods or services. We know that. A mark of Satan. That's basically that microchip. That marks you as a vessel of Satan. That's it. That's the mark of the beast. It marks you as a vessel of Satan. That's how you're going to be able to buy or sell. So, again, that's what the great God, Universal Allah, is doing. Allowing these crises to be created to separate the wheat from the tares. All right. Now, the great God already knows. All right, who took this? Who took this out of fear? Because guess what? Your satanic world leaders already told you none of you are having jobs when you leave out of here, because artificial intelligence then already almost replaced you guys. None of you are leaving out of here with jobs. What did Musket Head say? He said, only if you desire to work. And by that, if you're desiring to do a menial job at that time, they'll probably hit your kill switch anyway. That's not a part of the program. The part of the program is to usher you vessels of destruction, you vessels of Satan, is to usher you off of this earth, because this earth does not support you. This is a divine earth. Now it's a divine earth. And it does not support on these extremely low frequencies inhabiting these human vessels. That's the only reason why you would need to take the mark of the beast, to get you out of here, get you gone, and so that because clearly you did not learn your earth lesson. If you took the mark of the beast, you did not learn your earth lesson. You were not supposed to fear about lack and scarcity, because you were supposed to look at this earth and know that everything that you need is provided by the earth, and you were supposed to seek that, and you were supposed to find that, and you would have won the crown of life through that, even if it was unto departure from the human vessel, the human home, the human body. Because some will be freed through being departed from their body, their human body. There's freedom in leaving the human body for some. That's the very elect. Now, the very elect being those vessels of righteousness. They're still vessels of righteousness. They just have not transmuted the extremely low frequencies that have been programmed into them since upon incarnation. Because you're being programmed in the womb. You're being programmed because there's an umbilical cord. If it's a physical cord, right, there is a spiritual cord. That's universal law. As above, so below. As within, so without. I know a couple of things, but so if it's a physical cord to this human that's incubating you, there is a spiritual cord. Whatever that vessel that's incubating you with, whatever energies they are being surrounded with or that's being directed to them, that fetus is also receiving those energies. So even whatever they're called at that stage, fetuses and stuff, they're being energetically programmed for their incarnation. Before their physical birth, they're being programmed. So I want to take this moment to call a divine court hearing and a transfer for every pregnant woman that I see flaunting their pregnant belly in music videos, out to all these demonic vessels. I'm calling a divine court hearing and a transfer. If you are supposed to be incubating a life force that you're bringing into the world, because look, listen, this is a science. Everybody knows this. This is a science. There's no time and space. Someone can think about you and they can transfer or transmit or direct that thought form or energy instantly to you. It's instant. Now, I'm not going to get into the technicalities about, if you can block it, because some of us have the ability to block others' thought forms or electromagnetic impulses that are being directed to us. But guess what? A baby that hasn't even been born, that's why the great God puts a caterpillar in a cocoon so that it could grow uninterrupted, right? Away from the world, so that once it gets out of that cocoon, it can finally come out and fly as a butterfly. But see, it's different with a human vessel, because that incubator, it has a umbilical cord. So if we have female vessels, right, that, they're in, I'm seeing a lot of female vessels, like in music videos, they got a big ass pregnant belly. So the world is watching them. And the world is directing some type of energy to that incubator, that human. Now, these frequencies, they can range from either polarity, from the negative and positive polarity. They can range from. We're in 2026. There are very, very evil spirits that are here they're here for the end of an age. They're here to be judged off of their book of life. They're here. They just need a body, right? But nonetheless, they're still here. And these are the ones that are fixing their gaze upon these pregnant bellies. That baby is going to receive that energy as well because of the umbilical cord. Now, I don't know, maybe you guys are doing some secret Kabbalah rituals that transmute the energy for your baby. I don't know, but I'm still calling in a divine court hearing and a transfer, because if you're not protecting the life force that you're bringing into this world, then you're subject to whatever the great God, universal Allah, decides concerning that life force that you are incubating. Universal disclosure. Every time I see that, it is a divine court hearing and a transfer. So, back to these end time scenarios. This is how the great God is separating the wheat from the tares. Who's going to bend? Who's going to fold? Who's going to give in to Satan? Or who's going to do my will and reject Satan. And guess what? It's going to be up until our last breath that we're going to be being tested. Almost every turn, the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions are going to be testing us to see if we will give up our life force, pure positive life force energy, for a material world. They was testing y'all with that palm scanning technology. Well, that's an energy center in your hand. It can transmit or it can transfer. That's why you look at a Reiki, what a Reiki practitioner does. Look at them, how they hold their hand up, right? They hold their hand up because the energy flows from their hand. It can come through your teleportation device, your TV screen, and it can heal you. That's because of the energy centers in the hand. And they show it in those the Marvel productions. I don't know what character that is that has that. They have the light on their palm. So that's another way that the great God Universal Allah was separating the wheat from the tares. So you can get some plastic goods from Whole Foods or some shit. I know Whole Foods ain't, man, all that shit in there is, a lot of that shit I think is plastic. That's GMO food too. I think the right court hearing and transfer Whole Foods, because I do believe that Whole Foods sold out to the negative extraterrestrials. I do. I believe that Whole Foods sold to the negative polarity, the negative extraterrestrial, Satan. That's why they got Bezos, Pez head, putting that negative extraterrestrial technology in there so you can trade your pure positive life force energy for material goods. And that's against the great God Universal Allah. That's the only thing that the great God Universal Allah gave you. And you gonna give it away for some plastic goods? These are ways. Listen, these are ways that the great God Universal Allah is separating the wheat from the tares. The vessels of Satan, the vessels of destruction from the vessels of righteousness, the vessels of the great God Universal Allah, the positive polarity. It don't matter if you know the great God Universal Allah as Allah. You don't have to know the great God Universal Allah as Allah. Every nation knows the great God Universal Allah as a different Allah. But your decisions through law of cause and effect, that's going to determine whether you're a vessel of righteousness, a vessel of the great God Universal Allah. And that's what's going on. So again, these are the times that we are in, and it's only going to get more intense in terms of reclaiming. Like I said, this age is about accounting, divine accounting. Where has my pure positive life force energy been going for all these years? Who has it been going to? First of all, what spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions has it been going to? What entities has it been going into? Well, who do you have physical contracts with? Do you have contracts with Freddie Mae, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac? Who's your mortgage? Who are your mortgage contract? Who are you contracted under for your mortgages? For your, who are you banking with? These are all entities. They're spiritual. Because look, this is what's going on right now. This universal, as above, so below. Every physical construct has a spiritual entity connected to it. Who do you have contracts with that can summon you to appear in another reality in servitude, in slavery to them? Because they'll have the contract on you. Oh, Freddie Mac, you owe Freddie Mac this amount of money. They may want you to pay that off in the next life. Excuse me, not may. They're going to request in a divine court hearing, a legal proceeding, for you to be summoned to this reality to pay off your debt. Because this doesn't end here. Infinity, like Nipsey Hussle preached, the marathon, this continues. Once you stop here, you pick up somewhere else. Who do you owe here? That's where you will be picking up, whichever one. It'll be you're going to be required by law, unless the great God dismisses your cases. You'll be required to pay that back in another simulation, because they're going to demand a payment. Is the government letting you off on your student loans once AI replaces you? Because listen, my plea is this entity that was created for me, that is not my natural person. I'm a natural person. See, when I proclaim my nationality, that was my earthly salvation, so that I do not get reincarnated into another cycle of slavery. So some entity cannot go to the great God and say, I'm summoning them to this reality to pay off their debt. And here are the contracts. Because that was not my natural person. That is why on that birth certificate, Social Security is in all caps. That's not my natural person. Ain't no entity going to be able to go to the great God to summon me to another reality to pay off no debt for this shit here that my lower self entered into. That's why the great God said, for the melanated, for the native indigenous, whom the European has cursed as black, as commercial property, as 3/4 human, right? That's our earthly salvation, to escape slavery and reincarnation. Because you're coming out from the slave person that was created for you. Because you entered into a contract. Well, your parents, us as parents, we entered our children into a contract with Satan. Now, I'm not equipped to get into all the science behind that, that birth certificate and Social Security and how you were traded on a stock market or a slave market. I'm not going to get into all of that. That's more science. I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm going to get into the truth as Allah is saying. Look, it's about the soul, because look, those entities can bring these contracts. Look, great God, they still have a birth certificate. They never proclaim their nationality. That's the whom the European has cursed black. That's our earthly salvation, to get out of that, to separate from that slave identity and come into our natural person. So no entity is going to be able to prosecute me and sentence me. Because the great God is just, the great God is fair. If you entered into that contract with your free will, or look, once you get of that age of free will, you done heard this gospel, and you still reject the wisdom of the great God, what is the great God going to be able to do at that point? When Satan is coming for your soul to usher you into another reality of slavery and servitude, where you can't live, where you can't experience your pure, positive life force energy moving through this world. So, that's what it is. It's going to get more intense, because the great God, universal Allah, said the wickedness shall increase on this earth. That's going to be more evil entities that they've been bankrupt from whatever life they lived. They're bankrupt of all pure positive life force energy, and they know you still have some, and they they may need to enter you into some contracts to exchange material goods or services for your pure positive life force energy. That's what Hollyweird does. That's what Hollyweird does. They give them fame, fortune, notoriety because they know that they have an influx of pure positive life force energy. And they'll say, here, I'm going to give you this. From the material world, I just need your soul. I just need your pure positive life force energy. That's all. That's an exchange. And that, again, that's what they're doing in the Whole Foods. You want these goods and services from, and I think they're discontinuing it because I've been on their ass about that. We in other dimensions working against them. You got that right. Look, you want these goods and services from Whole Foods? Well, scan your palm here. It's going to be a transaction. And we're just every time you do that shit, we're extracting your pure positive life force energy. This is going to be the name of the game. And that's why the great God is saying, even the very elect shall be deceived. Everyone involved in taking my fingerprints, taking my palm scans or fingerprints through kidnappings, divine court hearing and transfer. Because, they've done it to me against my will. So it's time to get it back. And that's why we call in our divine court hearings and our transfers. Bismillah.